The woman who called me too dark couldn't breathe. She was staring at me across the boardroom table, mouth open, face white, hands gripping the armrest like the floor had dropped out beneath her. 3 months ago, Mrs. Kang offered me $200,000 to disappear, called me the help, spoke Korean over my head at her dinner table. Hospital smell, charity project, how long before he gets bored? Now she couldn't form a single word. Good morning. I set my briefcase down. Let my Carter Pharmaceuticals badge catch the light. I hear you need the company that supplies 60% of your medications. Silence, the kind that breaks people. Her husband was doing math. I watched it happen. The Carter wing at Atlanta General, the contract his hospitals desperately needed, the nursing student sitting across from him in a suit worth more than his car. His face went gray. And Seo Jin, my Seo Jin, standing by the window with a smile spreading slow across his face. Not shock, not betrayal, just recognition, like he was finally seeing all of me. One more thing. I glanced at the screen showing Mrs. Kang in her hospital bed, recovering from the surgery I'd performed 6 hours ago. You're welcome for your wife's life. She made a sound, half sob, half choke. Let me tell you how I got here. 3 months earlier, I walked past the Carter wing at Atlanta General and nobody looked twice. That's the thing about hiding in plain sight. People only see what they expect to see. A black woman in scrubs at 3 in the morning, nursing student, end of story. The wing was named after my great-grandfather. The foundation that funded half the hospital's scholarships, my family's. The pharmaceutical company that kept their supply rooms stocked, mine. But Big Mama taught me better than to announce it. Baby girl, she'd say, stirring her sweet tea on the porch in Savannah. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it sure does show you who people really are. Let them show you first, then decide if they deserve the truth. I was 28 years old with $3.2 billion to my name, and I was choosing to live in a small apartment, drive an old Honda, and work night shifts at a hospital that had my family's name on the building. Because the last man who loved me had loved my bank account more. Because I wanted, just once, to be seen. Really seen. For the woman, not the wealth. My phone buzzed. Uncle Marcus. Board meeting Tuesday, Kang contract renewal, you should be there. I typed back, nursing school, handle it. The Kang Medical Group. Their name had been floating around the hospital for weeks. Supply chain issues, contract negotiations. Apparently, they needed Carter Pharmaceuticals more than Carter Pharmaceuticals needed them. Funny how that worked. I clocked out at 3:15, grabbed my bag, and headed for the parking garage. My Honda sat between a Tesla and a Mercedes, neither of which belonged to me, even though I could have bought the dealership. The city slept. I drove home through empty streets, thinking about the exam I had tomorrow and the patient in room 412 who'd held my hand while she cried about her diagnosis. This was the life I'd chosen, the real one, the one that mattered. I had no idea. It was about to collide with something I never saw coming. Dr. Seojin Kang walked into my life the way a hurricane makes landfall, sudden, devastating, and impossible to ignore. Trauma bay, 2 in the morning, mass casualty from a pileup on the interstate. I was supposed to be observing, third-year nursing student, shadow the residents, stay out of the way. But when a patient codes, training takes over. He was already there when I pushed through the doors. Dr. Kang, barking orders like a general commanding a battlefield. Cold, precise. The kind of surgeon who made residents cry and attendings step back. Everyone called him Dr. Kang with a reverence that bordered on fear. The patient on table 3 flatlined. Seojin's hands were already occupied. The resident beside him froze. I didn't think. I moved. Chest compressions. Hard and fast. I called out the rhythm, the vitals, anticipated his next order before he gave it. We worked together like we'd done this 100 times. His hands, my hands, the patient between us fighting for another sunrise. The monitor beeped, rhythm restored. Only then did he look at me. Dark eyes, sharp jaw, the kind of face that would have made me stumble if I wasn't already planted. He studied me like I was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. You're a student? Nursing student, 3rd year. You handled that like you've been doing it for 10 years. My grandmother says I was born bossy. Something shifted in his expression, the ghost of a smile. From Dr. Kang, that was basically a standing ovation. "What's your name?" "Naomi. Naomi Carter." He didn't recognize it, didn't glance up at the Carter Wing sign visible through the trauma bay windows, didn't connect the dots that would have told him I could buy this hospital and everyone in it. Naomi Carter. He tested the name like he was memorizing it. "Don't waste your talent in nursing school, you should be in medical school." "Maybe I like being underestimated." His eyes held mine for a beat too long. Something crackled in the air between us. Electricity with nowhere to go. "I'll remember you." He turned back to his patient. I stood there for a moment longer than I should have, watching the way he moved. Confident, competent, completely unaware that he'd just knocked something loose inside me. I didn't know he was a Kang. He didn't know I was a Carter. But something had just started. Something that would either save us both or burn everything down. 3 weeks later, he invited me to meet his family. I should have known better. "They're traditional," Seo Jin warned as we pulled up to an estate that screamed old money and older expectations. "My mother can be particular." Particular. That was one word for it. The Kang family home sat on 12 acres of manicured perfection, stone columns, circular driveway. The kind of wealth that whispered instead of shouted, but whispered so loudly everyone could hear. I'd grown up in bigger, but they didn't know that. "I'll be right beside you." Seo Jin squeezed my hand. "Whatever she says, remember, I chose you." 3 weeks of stolen coffee breaks and rooftop conversations. 3 weeks of watching him laugh for the first time in years. Of feeling his hand find mine in dark hospital hallways. 3 weeks of falling for a man who looked at me like I was extraordinary, without knowing anything about my bank account. I was ready to meet his mother. I was not ready for his mother. Mrs. Eunice Kang stood in the foyer like a queen receiving a peasant. Perfect posture, perfect hair, perfect smile that didn't reach her eyes. "So," she looked me up and down. "You're the nursing student." "Yes, ma'am, Naomi Carter." The sound carried a dictionary's worth of dismissal. "Get me some water." The words landed before I processed them. She thought I was staff, in her own home meeting her son's girlfriend, and she thought, "Mother." Seo Jin's voice went cold. "This is Naomi, my girlfriend, not the help." "Oh." No apology, no embarrassment, just that same appraising stare. "How interesting." The dining room was worse. She seated me at the far end of the table, as far from Seo Jin as architecturally possible. His father nodded once in my direction and returned to his phone. His sister-in-law, Grace, married to his cousin, smiled with all the warmth of a January funeral. "Naomi." Mrs. Kang passed dishes around me like I wasn't there. "That's an unusual name. Where are you from? Originally?" "Savannah, Georgia, ma'am." That sound again. "And your parents?" "Passed when I was young. My grandmother raised me." "I see." She exchanged a glance with her husband, spoke Korean without missing a beat. "At least there's no family to deal with." I understood every word. 4 years of Korean in college. But I kept my face neutral. Her husband responded, also in Korean. "She's darker than the photo and she smells like the hospital." Grace leaned in. "How long do you think before he gets bored? 6 months?" Mrs. Kang laughed. "Generous, it's a phase. He's always had a soft spot for charity projects." I sat there, smiled, ate food I couldn't taste. Seo Jin's jaw was tight across the table. He'd caught the tone, if not the words. His hand clenched around his chopsticks. "Mother." His voice cut through her Korean. "English, please. It's rude." "Of course, darling." That smile again. "I was just telling your father how ambitious it is for a nursing student to date a surgeon." Ambitious. The word dripped with implication. "She's exceptional." Seo Jin met his mother's eyes without flinching. "Top of her class. I've seen her work. She saved a patient the night we met." "How nice." Mrs. Kang's attention had already moved on. "Grace, did I tell you about the cardiology conference? Dr. Yuna Park will be there. Such a lovely girl. Good family. The message was clear. There was a right choice for her son. And I wasn't it. After dinner, Mrs. Kang cornered me in the hallway. Just the two of us. Her mask dropped. I'm going to be direct. She held out an envelope. This is $200,000. Take it. Focus on your education. Build a life with your own kind. I looked at the envelope. Looked at her. $200,000. She thought that was life-changing money. My checking account had $47 million in it. But she didn't know that. Thank you for your concern, Mrs. Kang. I took the envelope. Didn't open it. I'll keep it in mind. I walked away. Didn't look back. Let her think she'd won. Let her think I was some desperate girl who could be bought. She had no idea who she just tried to dismiss. The Carter Wing at Atlanta to General was named after my family. The scholarship her nephew received, Carter Family Scholarship. The pharmaceutical contract her husband's hospitals desperately needed. One phone call from me, and every Kang Medical Group hospital runs out of medication. But Big Mama's voice echoed in my head. Let them show you who they are first. They were showing me, and I was taking notes. The drive home was quiet. Seo Jin's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I'm sorry. His voice cracked. I knew she was difficult, but it's not your fault. She had no right. None of them did. No. I watched the city lights blur past. They didn't. I'll talk to her. I'll make her understand. Don't. I reached over, covered his hand with mine. Not yet. He glanced at me, confused, hurt on my behalf. Why? Because you standing up for me in front of them will only make it worse. She'll dig in. Your father will choose her side, and you'll be caught in the middle of a war you can't win. So what do? I thought about the envelope in my purse. $200,000 of insult. We wait. I squeezed his hand. We let them show us exactly who they are. And then we decide what comes next. He pulled over, turned to face me fully. Naomi. His voice was rough. I don't care what they think. I don't care about their approval or their money or their plans. I care about you. You barely know me. I know enough. He reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. I know you sat with me in the chapel after I lost that patient. You didn't say anything stupid. You just stayed. Nobody does that. Nobody sees me like that. Seo Jin, let me see you. All of you. Whatever you're hiding behind that smile, I want to know it. My heart twisted, because he meant it. He meant every word, and he had no idea what he was asking for. Okay. The word slipped out before I could stop it. Okay. He leaned in, pressed his forehead to mine. We stayed there, breathing the same air, on the edge of something neither of us could name. I had secrets he couldn't imagine. His family had just declared war. And somewhere in the space between our heartbeats, I knew this was either going to be the love story of my life or the catastrophe that destroyed everything. Either way, I was all in. The chapel at Atlanta General sat at the end of a hallway nobody used after midnight. I found him there 3 days after that first family dinner, 3 in the morning. The space between shifts when the hospital breathed quietly and the world felt suspended. He was sitting in the front pew, shoulders curved forward, still in his surgical scrubs. I knew before I saw his face. He'd lost someone. I didn't say anything. Didn't offer platitudes or condolences or any of the hollow words people throw at grief to make themselves feel useful. I just sat down beside him in the dark. The silence stretched. 5 minutes, 10, 20. His breathing steadied. The tension in his shoulders slowly released. It was a kid. His voice came out raw. 8 years old, bike accident. I had him on the table for 6 hours. I didn't respond. Some moments don't need words. They need witness. Everyone keeps telling me I did everything I could. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. As if that matters to his parents. It doesn't, I said quietly. Not tonight. Maybe not for a long time. But it's still true. He turned to look at me. In the dim light, his face was stripped of the armor he wore in the trauma bay. No coldness, no precision, just a man carrying a weight too heavy to hold alone. You didn't say anything stupid. Grief doesn't need words. It needs witness. Something shifted between us. The air changed. He reached over, and his hand found mine in the dark, warm, steady, an anchor neither of us expected. We sat there until the sun started to lighten the windows. He never let go. And I knew in that moment that I was in trouble. The kind of trouble you don't walk away from. The kind that changes the shape of your whole life. After that night, Seo Jin started finding me. Coffee runs that weren't accidents. Pages that put us on the same floor. Conversations in supply closets that lasted longer than they should. Show me how you did that suture. He'd appear at my elbow during a quiet shift, watching my hands like they held secrets. The one from Tuesday. The attending was impressed. You were watching my sutures? I watch everything about you. He said it matter-of-factly, like it wasn't the most romantic thing anyone had ever said to me. You're interesting. Interesting. I tied off the practice suture, not looking at him. That's one word for it. What word would you use? I glanced up. His eyes were warm. That almost smile playing at the corner of his mouth. The one I'd learned was rare, reserved, mine. Complicated, I said. I'd use complicated. I like complicated. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching me work. In the fluorescent light of the supply room, surrounded by gauze and saline bags, he looked almost soft. Human. Nothing like the surgeon who made residents cry. Everyone's scared of you, I said. You know that, right? Good. Fear keeps them sharp. I'm not scared of you. His smile widened. I know. That's why you're interesting. I finished the suture, set down the instruments, turned to face him fully. Your mother offered me $200,000 to leave you. The warmth drained from his face. His jaw tightened. She what? After dinner, in the hallway, told me to focus on my education and build a life with my own kind. Naomi. I took the envelope. He stared at me, processing. I watched the emotions cycle through. Anger, hurt, confusion. You took it? I took it. I held his gaze. Because she needed to believe she'd won. Because the moment I rejected her offer, she would have escalated. And because I stepped closer. Because I wanted to see what you would do when you found out. What I would... He stopped. Understanding dawned. You're testing me. I'm giving you information. What you do with it is your choice. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. Not the bitter sound from the chapel, but something real. Something surprised. You're not what I expected, Naomi Carter. Is that a problem? No. He reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. It's a relief. The next Sunday, Grace Kang posted a picture to the Korean Medical Association's private social media group. I wasn't supposed to see it, but my cousin Denise had a friend who had a friend, and by Monday morning, the screenshot was sitting in my inbox. Just spotted Kang Medical Group's only son with his latest project. The caption dripped with condescension. Sources say she's a nursing student, 3rd year. Apparently, charity runs in the family. Charity. Project. The words were calculated, designed to frame me as something Seo Jin was doing out of pity. I read the post 3 times. Let the anger rise, then settle. Then, I did nothing. Denise called me that afternoon, outraged on my behalf. Girl, you need to clap back, hard. You know Big Mama's lawyer could... No. No, Naomi, she's out here making you look like some kind of... Let her. I watched the comments roll in under Grace's post. Let her put herself on record. What are you talking about? Just watch. By Tuesday, the post had taken on a life of its own. But not the way Grace intended. The nursing community had found it. This is the Naomi Carter who stayed with my grandmother for 12 hours during her final night. She held her hand so she wouldn't be alone. She tutors first-year students for free, every Saturday. My mother specifically requested her during chemo, said Naomi was the only one who made her feel human. This is classist garbage, and the person who posted it should be ashamed. Comment after comment. Testimonials from patients, families, fellow students. People I'd helped without thinking, kindnesses I'd forgotten I'd offered. Grace deleted the post within 48 hours, but the screenshots lived forever. At the next family dinner, she couldn't meet my eyes. I smiled at her, said nothing, let the silence do the work. Seo Jin noticed the change. What happened with Grace? Nothing. I passed him the rice. I think she's just having a hard week. He knew there was more. I could see it in the way he studied me, but he didn't push. That night, as he walked me to my car, he stopped me with a hand on my arm. Whatever you did, he said quietly, thank you for not humiliating her back. I didn't do anything. I know. His eyes held mine. That's exactly what I mean. The attacks didn't stop. They just got more sophisticated. Aunt Sunja cornered me at the next family gathering, some cousin's birthday at the Kang estate, silver hair, sharp eyes, a smile that reminded me of a knife wrapped in silk. You're the girlfriend. She said it like she was identifying a species of insect. The one from Georgia. Yes, ma'am. That sound. They all made that sound. In my day, people married their own kind. It was simpler, less complicated. Times change, ma'am. Do they? She sipped her tea. Blood doesn't, family doesn't. My grandson is studying medicine, you know, on a scholarship. Good Korean boy. He'll marry a good Korean girl. Continue the line properly. I thought about the Carter family scholarship that was paying for her grandson's education. The irony was almost too perfect. I'm sure he'll do well, I said mildly. He will, because we raised him with the right values. Her eyes swept over me, cataloging and dismissing in a single glance. Some families understand tradition, others don't. I smiled, nodded, let her think she'd landed the blow. Big Mama's voice in my head. Write it down, baby girl. Remember every word. One day, the ledger comes due. The Korean Medical Association Spring Gala was supposed to be a networking opportunity. For me, it became a lesson in invisible walls. Every conversation I approached went quiet when I arrived. Small clusters of doctors and administrators would glance, whisper, then suddenly remember somewhere else they needed to be. That's her, I heard. The nursing student. Bold of her to show up here. Is she even invited, or did she come as someone's plus one? Kang's mother must be mortified. I stood by the punch bowl, alone, watching the room swirl around me. The exclusion was almost artistic in its coordination. No one was overtly rude. They didn't have to be. They simply acted as if I didn't exist. Seo Jin found me 20 minutes later, his face tight with barely contained fury. I've been looking everywhere. Why didn't you? He stopped, read the room, understood. They're freezing you out. It's fine. It's not fine. His voice dropped low, dangerous. These people work for my family's hospitals. Half of them owe their positions to my father. And they're treating you like exactly what your mother told them I was. I kept my voice calm. A charity project. An outsider. Someone temporary. You're not temporary. They don't know that. I set down my untouched glass. And right now, that's an advantage. He stared at me. How are you so calm about this? Because they have no idea who they're snubbing, I wanted to say. Because every whisper, every turned back, every deliberate exclusion is a debt they're racking up without knowing it. But I couldn't tell him that. Not yet. Because getting angry doesn't change anything, I said instead. But remembering does. He was quiet for a moment. Then he took my hand, lifted it to his lips, pressed a kiss to my knuckles, right there in the middle of the room where everyone could see. Let them remember this too, he said. The whispers shifted, not silenced, but recalibrated. Dr. Kang's son had chosen a side. That meant something, even if they didn't understand why. 2 weeks later, Dr. Yuna Park walked into my life like a grenade with perfect hair. Family dinner. Again. Mrs. Kang had been almost civil for 3 whole courses, a record, when the doorbell rang. Oh, wonderful. Mrs. Kang's face lit up like Christmas morning. Yuna, darling, come in, I'm so glad you could join us. She was beautiful. The kind of beautiful that came from excellent genetics, expensive skincare, and the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. Chief of cardiology at 30, good family, the daughter of Mrs. Kang's college roommate, the perfect Korean daughter-in-law that I would never be. Seo Jin. Yuna's smile was warm, familiar, rehearsed. It's been too long. Yuna. His voice was polite but distant. I didn't know you'd be here. Your mother invited me. She thought it would be nice to catch up. Her eyes slid to me, assessed, dismissed. And this must be your friend. Friend, not girlfriend. The demotion was intentional. Naomi. I extended my hand. His girlfriend. Her handshake was limp, uninterested. How nice. Mrs. Kang inserted herself between us like a heat-seeking missile. Yuna is chief of cardiology at Emory, 30 years old. Can you imagine? Such an accomplishment. The implication hung in the air. What have you accomplished? That's impressive, I said, because it was. Cardiology is a demanding field. It is. Yuna's smile sharpened. But I've always been driven. Good families produce driven children. Seo Jin's hand found the small of my back. Steadying. Warning. Dinner was a masterclass in subtle warfare. Mrs. Kang seated Yuna directly across from Seo Jin, forcing conversation. Old stories about medical school, shared colleagues, the conference in Seoul where they'd apparently been inseparable. Remember that restaurant by the Han River? Yuna's laugh was musical, performative. We stayed until they closed, talking about our futures. I remember. Seo Jin's voice was flat. That was 5 years ago. Some connections don't fade. She glanced at me. No matter what distractions come along. Distractions. I was a distraction now. I ate my food, said little, watched Mrs. Kang beam at Yuna like she'd invented sunlight. After dinner, Yuna found me alone in the hallway. Her mask slipped just for a moment. I know what you're doing, she said softly. Latching onto a good family, looking for security. It's smart, really, but it won't work. I'm not latching onto anything. Please. Her laugh was cold. Nursing students don't end up with men like Seo Jin. His mother knows it. His father knows it. Deep down, even he knows it. You're a phase, an act of rebellion. And when he's ready to be serious about his future, he'll come back to someone who actually fits. I held her gaze. Let the silence stretch. Thank you for the insight, I said finally. I'll keep it in mind. I walked away before she could respond, but her words stayed with me, burrowing under my skin like splinters I couldn't quite reach. She was wrong about everything, but she didn't know that yet. The next week was a blur of night shifts and study groups and text messages from Seo Jin that made me smile at my phone like a teenager. Missing you. The resident who replaced you is terrible. I keep expecting your voice. Rooftop, Friday, 9 p.m. I have something to show you. Friday came with a thunderstorm that cleared by sunset, leaving the city washed clean and glittering. I climbed the stairs to the hospital rooftop, not knowing what to expect. He was already there, waiting. The city spread out below us like scattered diamonds, and he was looking at me like I was the only light that mattered. You came. You asked. I wasn't sure you would. After everything, Yuna, my mother, Grace's post, the gala. He ran a hand through his hair. I wouldn't blame you if you walked away. I moved closer, close enough to feel his warmth. Is that what you want? For me to walk away? No. The word came out rough, desperate. God, no, I want... He stopped, started again. Everyone tiptoes around me. They call me Dr. Kang, and they're scared of my family, and they see what they want to see. But you... Me? You sat with me in the dark. You didn't try to fix me. You just stayed. His eyes searched mine. Nobody stays. Nobody sees past the name and the title in the hospital. But you do. Why? I thought about all the things I couldn't tell him. The billions of dollars, the company, the power I held that could reshape his entire family's future, the secrets that grew heavier every day. Because I know what it's like, I said, to want someone to see the person instead of the package. He stepped closer. The space between us shrank to inches. My family hates you. I know. They'll never stop trying to break us apart. I know that too. Why do you stay? I looked up at him, this man who'd walked into my life like a hurricane and somehow become my calm, who made me laugh and made me think and made me want things I'd stopped believing in. Because you're worth it, I said, and because I think you need someone who sees you. Not the Kang name, not the surgeon, just you. His hand came up to cup my face, gentle, trembling slightly. Naomi. The city hummed below us. The wind carried the last traces of rain, and in his eyes, I saw something that looked a lot like the beginning of everything. Stay, he whispered. I didn't answer with words, but I didn't leave either. The city lights blurred below us. Seo Jin's hand was still on my face, warm and steady, and the word hung between us like a held breath. Stay. I looked up at him. This man who'd seen me cry over patience and laugh at terrible jokes and sit in silence when words weren't enough. Who'd kissed my hand in front of a room full of people who wanted me gone. Who kept choosing me over and over without knowing what that choice might cost him. I'm not going anywhere, I said. He closed the distance between us. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, like he was asking a question he wasn't sure I'd answer. I answered it by pulling him closer, my fingers curling into the fabric of his jacket. The city disappeared. The hospital disappeared. His family, the attacks, the secrets I was still keeping, all of it faded into white noise. There was only this, only him, only the way his hands trembled slightly as they slid into my hair. When we finally pulled apart, both of us breathing harder than we should have been, he pressed his forehead to mine. I've wanted to do that since the trauma bay, he admitted. That long? That long. He laughed softly. You were covered in someone else's blood and barking orders at residents, and all I could think was, who is this woman? And now? His eyes searched mine. Now I know who you are, and I want more. I thought about the secrets still standing between us, the billions of dollars, the company, the power that could save or destroy his family with a single phone call. He deserved to know. He deserved the truth. But not yet. Not tonight. Tonight, I let myself have this. Okay, I said. More. He kissed me again. And this time, neither of us held back. The weeks that followed felt stolen, precious, borrowed time before the other shoe dropped. We found moments where we could supply closets and empty corridors and that rooftop that had become our place. Seo Jin started keeping a blanket up there, and sometimes we'd lie on our backs watching planes cross the sky, talking about everything and nothing. Tell me about Savannah, he'd say. So I'd tell him about Big Mama's porch and the way the Spanish moss hung like curtains and the sound of cicadas on summer nights. I told him about my parents, the car accident, the caskets I was too young to understand, the way grief had reshaped my childhood into something quieter. What I didn't tell him, the inheritance, the company, the billions that had been waiting for me since I turned 21. Your turn, I'd say. Tell me about growing up Kang. His stories were different, colder. A father who measured love in achievements, and a mother who measured worth in bloodlines. A childhood spent proving himself, over and over. Never quite enough. I wanted to be an artist, he admitted once, laughing at the absurdity. When I was 8, I told my mother I wanted to paint. What did she say? She said artists starve. Kangs do not starve. His jaw tightened. I never picked up a brush again. I reached over, took his hand. For what it's worth, I think you would have been a good artist. What makes you say that? Because you see things, details other people miss. I squeezed his fingers. That's what artists do. He was quiet for a moment. Then he rolled onto his side, facing me. Nobody talks to me like you do, he said. Everyone else wants something. My name, my family's money, my position. But me. You look at me like I'm just a person, like the rest of it doesn't matter. My heart twisted, because it didn't matter. Not to me. But if he knew the truth, would he believe that? Or would he wonder if I'd been playing a different game all along? It doesn't, I said. Matter, I mean. You could be a janitor and I'd still be here. A janitor. He smiled. My mother would actually die. Bonus. He laughed, that real laugh, the one I'd learned to love, and pulled me closer. The hospital gala arrived like a storm on the horizon. I'd known it was coming. Mrs. Kang had been talking about it for weeks, the annual fundraiser for the Kang Medical Foundation, where Atlanta's medical elite gathered to write checks and judge each other's outfits. You don't have to come, Seo-jin said the night before, after what happened at the last one. I'm coming. Naomi, I'm not hiding from your mother's friends. I straightened his tie, even though it didn't need straightening. Besides, I have a new dress. It would be a shame to waste it. The dress was red, bold, the kind of dress that said, I belong here whether you like it or not. I'd bought it with cash from my checking account, the one with $47 million that nobody knew about. Seo-jin's face when he saw me was worth every penny. You're trying to kill me, he said, just keeping you on your toes. The gala was held at the Kang estate, transformed for the occasion into something out of a magazine. Crystal chandeliers, string quartet, champagne that cost more per bottle than most people's rent. I'd grown up attending events like this. Big Mama had made sure I knew which fork to use and how to small talk with senators, and why you never let them see you sweat. But the Kangs didn't know that. To them, I was a nursing student playing dress-up. Let them think what they wanted. Yuna found me halfway through the evening. She was wearing white, bridal almost, which I was sure wasn't an accident. Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Naomi, she air-kissed somewhere near my cheek. What a brave dress choice. Thank you, I like yours too. Very ceremonial. Her smile flickered. I've been meaning to talk to you, woman to woman. Have you? Seo-jin and I have history. She swirled her champagne, watching me over the rim. Years of history. His mother adores me. His father respects my family. We make sense. And yet he's with me? For now. She stepped closer. But I know him. I know how he thinks, what he needs, what he's running from. You're a rebellion, a phase. And when it's over, and it will be over, I'll still be here. I held her gaze. Let the silence stretch. You know what I find interesting? I said finally. You keep telling me what Seo-jin thinks, what Seo-jin needs, what Seo-jin will do, but you never ask him. I don't need to ask. I know. Do you? Movement behind her. Seo-jin, cutting through the crowd with purpose in his stride. His eyes found mine first, checking, reassuring, before landing on Yuna. Yuna. His voice was ice. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Seo-jin. She pivoted smoothly, her expression softening into something warmer. I was just getting to know Naomi better. I heard. He moved to stand beside me, close, claiming. I heard exactly what you said. You were only saying things that aren't true. His voice carried. People nearby turned to look. I need to be clear, since apparently my previous actions weren't enough. I'm not waiting for anyone. I'm not running from anything. And I'm not interested in whatever future you've imagined for us. Seo-jin, your mother... My mother doesn't choose who I love. The word landed like a bomb. Love. He'd said love, in front of everyone, looking at me like I was the only person in the room. Yuna's face went pale. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. I think you should go, Seo-jin said quietly, before this becomes more embarrassing for you. She left, didn't say goodbye, just turned and walked away, champagne glass still clutched in her white-knuckled hand. The whispers started immediately, but Seo-jin didn't seem to notice. He was looking at me. Did you mean it? I asked. My voice came out smaller than I intended. Which part? The love part. He took my hand, lifted it to his lips, pressed a kiss to my palm where no one could see. Every word. Later that night, in his apartment, he said it properly. We were sitting on his couch, still dressed for the gala, my heels abandoned by the door. The city glittered through his windows, and his hand was warm on my knee. "My family is trying to destroy you," he said. "You know that, right?" "I've noticed. My mother, my father, Yuna, Grace, the entire Korean medical community." He turned to face me. "They have money and power and connections. They can make your life very difficult." "Are you trying to scare me away?" "I'm trying to be honest." His jaw tightened. "Because you deserve to know what you're choosing, what staying with me means." I thought about my own secrets, the dishonesty of omission, the things I still hadn't told him. "I know what I'm choosing," I said. "Do you?" "Because they won't stop. The attacks will get worse. They'll threaten your career, your reputation, everything you've worked for, and I—" His voice cracked. "I don't know how to protect you from them." "You don't have to protect me." "Yes, I do, because—" He stopped, took a breath. "Because I love you, Naomi. I love you more than I've ever loved anything. And I'm terrified that loving me is going to cost you everything." The words hit me like a wave. Love. He loved me. This man who'd seen me at 3 a.m. with coffee-stained scrubs and bags under my eyes, who'd watched me fight with his family and refuse to break, who didn't know about the billions or the company or the power I was hiding. He loved the version of me that drove an old Honda and lived in a small apartment and worked night shifts because she believed in something bigger than money. That was the most real thing anyone had ever given me. "I love you too," I said, "and I need you to trust me." "Trust you?" "When the time comes, when everything changes." I cupped his face in my hands. "Trust that I have reasons for the things I haven't told you, and trust that none of it changes how I feel about you." He searched my eyes. I could see the questions there, the things he wanted to ask, the pieces he was trying to fit together. "Okay," he said finally. "I trust you." I leaned in, pressed my forehead to his. "Thank you." We stayed like that for a long moment, breathing the same air, holding something fragile between us. I knew it couldn't last. The secrets were getting heavier. His family was getting more desperate. And somewhere, a clock was ticking down to the moment when everything would explode. But for now, we had this. We had each other. It would have to be enough. The attacks escalated exactly like he'd warned. Dr. Richard Kang called Seo Jin into his office 3 days after the gala. I heard about it later. The cold fury in his father's voice, the ultimatums dressed up as concern. "Your performance is slipping. Your focus is divided. This distraction is affecting your career." Translation: end it or face the consequences. SEO Jin refused. The consequences came quickly. My clinical rotations were suddenly reassigned, moved from the surgical floor where I'd built relationships to the basement records department. Bureaucratic error, they claimed. Nothing personal. Mrs. Kang stopped bothering with subtlety. She cornered me at the hospital coffee cart, her smile sharp as broken glass. "I know people on the nursing board," she said pleasantly. "One phone call and your application for certification disappears. Another call and your clinical hours are invalidated. A third call and every hospital in Atlanta considers you unhireable." "Is that a threat, Mrs. Kang?" "It's information." Her eyes were cold. "I want you to understand exactly what you're risking by staying with my son." I understood. I understood perfectly. What she didn't understand was that I could buy the nursing board. I could buy every hospital in Atlanta. I could make a single phone call and her husband's entire medical empire would crumble overnight. But I said none of that. "Thank you for the information," I said. "I'll take it under advisement." She walked away thinking she'd landed a blow. She had no idea she'd just signed her own receipt. Grace started a new campaign, quieter, more insidious. Whispers through the Korean community that I was using Seo Jin, that I'd targeted him for his family's money, that I was a gold digger who'd latched onto the first wealthy man who showed interest. The irony was almost funny. Almost. Through it all, Seo Jin stood beside me, defended me at every turn, watched his family tear itself apart trying to tear us apart. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," he admitted one night. We were on the rooftop again. wrapped in blankets against the cold. Watch them attack you. Watch you absorb it and say nothing. It's not forever. How do you know? I thought about the board meeting coming up, the contract renewal that his father's hospitals desperately needed, the truth that was burning a hole in my chest. I just know, I said. Trust me. He pulled me closer. I do. But even trust has limits, and I could feel the pressure building, the walls closing in from every direction. Something was going to break. I just didn't know yet that it would be me. The ultimatum came on a Sunday. I wasn't supposed to hear it. I'd arrived early to the Kang estate. Seo Jin had asked me to meet him there, said he wanted to introduce me to his grandmother's garden before his parents returned from church. But his parents came back early. I was standing in the hallway outside his father's study when their voices cut through the door. Loud, furious. The kind of conversation that doesn't expect witnesses. "This ends now." Dr. Kang's voice was ice. "Today, you end it or we end everything else." "You can't be serious." Seo Jin, controlled but barely. "I've never been more serious in my life." Mrs. Kang now, her voice sharp as shattered glass. "That woman is destroying this family. She's turned you against us. She's made you a laughingstock in front of everyone who matters. The only people who've made me a laughingstock are the ones standing in this room. How dare you? How dare I? How dare you?" His voice rose. "You've threatened her career. You've tried to bribe her. You've turned the entire community against her. And for what? Because she doesn't come from a family you approve of? Because she's not Korean?" Silence, heavy and damning. "This is not about race." His father's voice was tight. "This is about legacy, about family, about everything we've built." "No, it's about control. It's always been about control." "Seo Jin?" Mrs. Kang's tone shifted, softer now, manipulative. "We're not asking you to be alone forever. Yuna is gone because I told her the truth, because I love Naomi, not her. You think you love this girl, but love fades. Family doesn't. Position doesn't. When you're 40 and she's left you for someone with more money, what will you have?" I pressed my hand against the wall, steadied myself. "I'll have my integrity," Seo Jin said. "Something you clearly don't understand." "Enough." Dr. Kang's voice cut like a scalpel. "This is your last chance. End this relationship or face the consequences." "What consequences?" "Your trust fund, your position at the hospital, your name." A pause. "Everything you've taken for granted your entire life, gone. We will cut you off completely." "You would do that to your own son?" "We would do whatever it takes to save you from yourself." The silence stretched. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. "Choose," Mrs. Kang said. "Her or your family. You have until the end of the week." I didn't wait to hear his answer. I slipped out the back door, found my car, and drove away with tears streaming down my face. I broke up with him that night. He came to my apartment, confused and desperate, having searched for me all afternoon. I opened the door and saw his face, hope warring with fear, and my heart shattered into pieces I wasn't sure I could put back together. "Naomi." He stepped inside, reaching for me. "Where did you go?" I looked everywhere. I heard them. My voice came out flat, empty. The ultimatum, her or your family. His face went pale. "You weren't supposed to..." But I did. I stepped back, put distance between us. And they're right. "What?" "Not about me, about what this is costing you." I wrapped my arms around myself, holding the pieces together by force of will. "I won't be the reason you lose everything, your career, your family, your inheritance." "I don't care about any of that." "You should. They're your parents, your history, your life." My voice cracked. "I won't take that from you." "You're not taking anything. They're the ones making demands. They're the ones forcing this choice. And if you choose me, you lose them." I met his eyes. Let him see the decision I'd already made. "I won't do that to you." "Naomi..." "It's over, Seo Jin." The words hung between us like a death sentence. "No." He stepped closer, grabbed my hands. "No, You don't get to make this decision for me. You don't get to walk away because you think you're protecting me. I am protecting you. From what? From the woman I love? From the only person who's ever seen me as something more than a name? His voice broke. Naomi, please, don't do this. I pulled my hands away, stepped back, put the distance between us that his family required. Go home, I said. Make peace with your family. Find someone they approve of. Be happy. I won't be happy without you. You'll learn. I opened the door, waited. He stood there for a long moment, looking at me like I'd ripped his heart out and handed it back to him still beating. Then he walked out. I closed the door behind him, and I let myself fall apart. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. I went through the motions, shifts at the hospital, classes, study groups. I smiled when I was supposed to smile and spoke when I was supposed to speak, and nobody knew that inside. I was hollow. Cousin Denise flew in from Savannah on day 3, took one look at me and started making Big Mama's chicken soup without asking permission. Girl, she handed me a bowl. You look like death warmed over. Thanks. I'm serious. When's the last time you ate? Slept. Showered. I shower. Barely. She sat down across from me. You want to tell me what happened, or should I just assume the worst? So I told her. Everything. The ultimatum. The choice, the breakup, the look on his face when I closed the door. When I finished, Denise was quiet for a long moment. You know you're an idiot, right? Excuse me? You heard me. She pointed her spoon at me. You're sitting here, breaking your own heart, to protect a man who didn't ask to be protected. That's not noble, Naomi. That's control. It's not. It is. You decided what was best for him without asking him. Just like his parents. She leaned back. You're doing exactly what you hate them for doing. The words hit like a slap. That's not fair. Life's not fair, baby. Big Mama's voice came from the doorway. I hadn't even heard her come in. She was 74 years old, sharp as a tack, and currently looking at me like I'd disappointed every ancestor we had. Big Mama, I stood up. What are you doing here? Denise called, said you were being foolish. I came to confirm. She crossed the room, took my face in her hands. Baby girl, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. But also, when are you going to show him who you are? I was scared, Big Mama. Scared of what? Scared he'd love your money instead of you? Or scared you'd have to stop hiding? I couldn't answer, because the truth was both. The truth was all of it. Naomi Lucille Carter. Her voice was gentle now. That boy looked at you like you hung the moon when he thought you couldn't pay rent. He stood up to his whole family for you. He chose you over his inheritance, his position, his name. And you walked away because you thought you were protecting him? I thought, you thought wrong. She released my face, stepped back. That boy deserves the truth, all of it. And you deserve to stop carrying this weight alone. His family hates me. His family doesn't know you. Big Mama's eyes hardened. They see a nursing student, a charity project, someone beneath them. And you've let them believe that because it felt safer than risking the truth. And if I tell him and he feels betrayed, if he thinks I was lying this whole time, then he wasn't worth it. She shrugged. But I don't think that's what'll happen. I think that boy will finally understand why you held yourself back. And I think he'll love you even more for trusting him with everything. I looked at Denise. She nodded. I looked at Big Mama. She smiled. Time to stop hiding, baby girl. The call came 3 days later. Mrs. Kang had collapsed at a charity gala. Cardiac event. Critical condition. I was at the hospital when the trauma team brought her in. Heard the code called, saw the gurney rush past. For one frozen moment, our eyes met. Hers went wide with recognition. Then she was gone, swallowed by the chaos of emergency medicine. The attending found me an hour later. Dr. Morrison, head of cardiac surgery. He looked exhausted. We have a problem, he said. She needs surgery, specialized. The kind only a handful of people in the country can do. Who's available? That's the problem. The only surgeon with the specific technique she needs is Dr. I. Foster at Johns Hopkins. We've been trying to reach her for months. She's booked out for 2 years. I went very still. What if I told you she was closer than you think? Dr. Morrison frowned. What do you mean? I took a breath, thought about Big Mama's words, thought about hiding, thought about the woman lying on a table down the hall, the woman who'd called me the help and offered me $200,000 to disappear. I mean, I said quietly, that I can do the surgery. His face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and finally understanding. Imani, he whispered. Imani Foster. Foster. I'm Dr. Naomi Imani Carter. I trained under Morrison at Hopkins before I came here. I've been working on my nursing degree to understand patient care from the ground up. But, yes, I met his eyes. I can save her. He stared at me for a long moment. Then save her. The surgery took 4 hours. I scrubbed in, stepped up to the table, and looked down at the woman who tried to destroy me. Her face was peaceful in sedation. No coldness, no judgment, no superiority. Just a woman fighting for her life. I saved it anyway, because Big Mama raised me better than to let someone die over spite, because the oath I'd taken meant something, because mercy was its own kind of power. When it was over, when her vitals stabilized and her heart beat strong again, I stepped back from the table, stripped off my gloves. The attending looked at me with something like awe. That was masterful. That was medicine. I headed for the door. Let me know when she's awake. I had somewhere else to be. The Kang Medical Group B. Board meeting was in crisis mode. I knew because Uncle Marcus had called 17 times in the past week. The Carter Pharmaceuticals contract was up for renewal. Supply chain issues had left their hospitals scrambling, and the family patriarch was currently too busy dealing with his wife's medical emergency to negotiate. The perfect storm. I walked into the boardroom wearing a power suit that cost more than most people's cars, diamonds at my ears, my Carter Pharmaceuticals ID badge catching the fluorescent light. The room went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The kind of silence that happens when the world tilts and everyone's trying to grab onto something solid. Dr. Richard Kang was at the head of the table, gray-faced and exhausted. Grace sat in the corner, her phone frozen midway to her face. Aunt Sunja clutched her tea like a lifeline. And Seo Jin, my Seo Jin, standing by the window, still in his surgical scrubs. He must have come straight from the hospital. His eyes found mine, and I watched the emotions cycle across his face. Shock, confusion, and then, slowly, beautifully, understanding. He smiled. Good morning. I set my briefcase on the table. I believe you needed to speak with the company that supplies 60% of your hospital medications. Nobody moved. I'm Naomi Carter, sole heir to Carter Pharmaceuticals, and I hear you're having some supply chain issues. Dr. Kang's mouth opened, closed, opened again. His voice came out strangled. You're the nursing student you tried to run off. I smiled. The charity project? The help? I let the words land. Also, the person who controls whether your hospitals have medication to treat patients. And I glanced at the tablet on the table, showing a video feed of Mrs. Kang in her hospital bed, watching with wide, horrified eyes. The surgeon who just saved your wife's life. The silence stretched into eternity. Grace's phone clattered to the floor. Aunt Sunja's teacup shattered. The Carter wing, Dr. Kang whispered. At Atlanta General, that's my family, yes. I pulled out a chair, sat down. Named after my great-grandfather. The scholarships your nephew receives, Carter Family Foundation, the contract your entire medical group depends on. I spread my hands. Mine to give or withhold. On the screen, Mrs. Kang made a sound, something between a sob and a gasp. The $200,000. Her voice cracked through the speakers. I offered you $200,000 to leave my son. You did. I held her gaze through the camera. My checking account has $47 million in it. But thank you for your concern about my education. The room was frozen, paralyzed. Every person who'd ever looked at me like I was nothing, confronted with the truth that I was everything they'd ever needed. And then Seo Jin moved. He crossed the room, reached up to his collar, and in one smooth motion, removed his Kang Medical Group ID badge. He slid it across the table toward his father. "I built my career with my own hands," he said. "Every surgery, every save, mine, not yours." "Seo Jin." His father's voice was desperate. "You gave me a choice, her or my family." He walked to my side, took my hand. "I choose her. I'll always choose her." He turned to me, and in front of everyone, his father, his aunt, Grace, his mother watching on screen, he said the words I'd never expected to hear. "I loved you when I thought you couldn't pay rent. I loved you when I thought you'd never fit into my world. Finding out you could buy my entire family doesn't change anything." He squeezed my hand. "Except now I understand why you didn't tell me." "Why?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Because you wanted someone to love you. Not your name, not your money, just you." His eyes were soft. "And I do. I did. I always will." I blinked back tears, refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of the people who tried to break me. "I love you too," I said. "I should have told you everything. I should have trusted you." "You're telling me now." He lifted my hand to his lips, pressed a kiss to my knuckles. "That's enough." On the screen, Mrs. Kang was crying. Real tears. Not manipulation, just the raw, ugly breakdown of a woman realizing exactly how wrong she'd been. "You saved my life," she whispered. "After everything I said, everything I did, you saved my life." I looked at her, this woman who'd called me the help, who'd tried to buy me off, who'd threatened to destroy my career. "I took an oath," I said. "Do no harm, even to people who harm me." She broke down completely, sobbing, shaking, something shattering inside her that I suspected had been building for a long time. I turned back to the room, to the contract that still needed signing, to the family that had underestimated me from the very beginning. "Now," I pulled the documents from my briefcase. "Shall we discuss terms?" The contract was signed within the hour. Fair terms, reasonable pricing, a partnership instead of a power play. I could have crushed them, could have demanded anything I wanted and watched them scramble to comply. But that wasn't the point. Big Mama's voice echoed in my head. Mercy is its own kind of power. Dr. Kang was the first to apologize. He found me in the hallway after the meeting, looking older than he had an hour before. "I was blind," he said quietly. "My son is wiser than I ever was." He is. The things we said, the things my wife... He stopped, swallowed. "There's no excuse. I know that, but I want you to know that I see it now. What we almost cost him, what we almost cost ourselves." I studied him for a long moment. This man who'd enabled every attack, every insult, every scheme to drive me away. "I'm not looking for an apology," I said. "I'm looking for change." He nodded. "You'll have it." Whether I believed him remained to be seen, but it was a start. Mrs. Kang took longer. She was still in the hospital when I went to see her. 3 days post-surgery, recovering well but fragile in ways that went beyond the physical. When I walked into her room, she started crying before I could say a word. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," she whispered. "I know that." "No," I agreed. "You don't." She flinched, but she didn't argue. "You called me the help. You offered me money to disappear. You tried to destroy my career and my relationship with your son." I sat down in the chair beside her bed. "You spoke Korean at your dinner table and called me too dark and hospital smell and charity project. You understood every word." She closed her eyes. Tears leaked down her temples into her hair. "I told myself I was protecting him," she said. "Protecting the family, our legacy, our name." A bitter laugh escaped her. "I was protecting my own pride, my own fear, and I almost lost my son because of it." "Yes, and then you saved my life." Her eyes opened, met mine. After everything I did, you saved my life. I took an oath. It was more than that. She reached out, hesitated, let her hand fall back. It was mercy, the kind I never showed you. I was quiet for a long moment, watching this woman who'd been my enemy for months, broken now, humbled, genuinely trying to understand what she'd done wrong. I don't need you to be perfect, I said finally. I need you to be different. I'm trying. Then keep trying. I stood, headed for the door, paused with my hand on the frame. For what it's worth, I said, your son is an extraordinary man. You had something to do with that, even if you almost lost him in the process. When I left, she was still crying, but something in her face had shifted, something that looked almost like hope. The rooftop at Atlanta General felt different in daylight. Seo Jin was waiting when I arrived, standing at the railing, looking out over the city that had tried so hard to keep us apart. He turned when he heard my footsteps, and his smile made everything worth it. Hey yourself. He pulled me into his arms, held me like he was afraid I'd disappear. Why didn't you tell me? He asked against my hair. About all of it? The company, the money, everything? Because when you worried about my rent and cooked me dinner and tried to take care of me, I pulled back to look at him. That was the first time anyone saw me. Just me. Not my name or my money or what I could give them. I see you, Naomi. His hand came up to cut my face. I always did. I know. I leaned into his touch. I should have trusted you with the truth sooner. You're trusting me now. He kissed my forehead. That's what matters. We stood there for a while, wrapped up in each other, watching planes cross the sky. What now? He asked eventually. Now we build something real. 1 year later, we got married. Twice. The Korean ceremony was held at the Kang estate, transformed for the occasion into something out of a dream. I wore a traditional hanbok in deep red and gold, and Seo Jin's face when he saw me made Big Mama tear up from the front row. Mrs. Kang cried through the entire ceremony. But these were different tears. Joy instead of manipulation, gratitude instead of control. When it came time for the tea ceremony, she presented me with her own mother's hairpin. This belonged to my grandmother, she said, voice trembling. It passes to the women who carry our family forward. I would be honored if you would wear it. I let her pin it in my hair. And for the first time since I'd met her, her smile reached her eyes. The Southern celebration happened 2 weeks later in Savannah. Big Mama's backyard had never looked so beautiful. String lights hanging from the oak trees, tables covered in white linen, the smell of biscuits and barbecue, and too much love drifting through the evening air. Your grandson is lucky, Big Mama told Mrs. Kang, who'd flown down for the occasion. So is your granddaughter, Mrs. Kang replied. They both cried. Then Big Mama started teaching her how to make collard greens, and I knew everything was going to be okay. Seo Jin found me on the dance floor as the sun set over the Spanish moss. He pulled me close, swaying to a song I'd known since childhood. No regrets? He asked. Marrying you? Never. Giving up your secret identity? I laughed. Please, I'm still a billionaire. I just don't have to hide it anymore. Fair point. He spun me out, then back into his arms. I married a billionaire heiress who saved my mother's life and controls my family's entire supply chain. I'm pretty sure I won. We both won. He kissed me under the string lights, and somewhere in the crowd, Big Mama started a round of applause. The final family dinner happened 6 months after the wedding. Kang Estate, same dining room where they'd once seated me at the far end and spoken Korean over my head. But everything had changed. I sat at the head of the table now, next to Seo Jin, surrounded by family both old and new. Big Mama had flown in for the weekend and was currently arguing with Aunt Sunja about the proper way to season fried chicken. Grace sat across from cousin Denise, both of them scrolling through Instagram and almost getting along. Progress. Dr. Kang had retired. He spent most of his time golfing with Uncle Marcus now, which was a development nobody had seen coming. And Mrs. Kang? She appeared at my elbow with a cup of tea, set it down gently, met my eyes. Thank you, she said quietly, for my son. For my life. For your mercy. I took her hand, squeezed it once. Thank you for raising a man worth loving. Seo Jin's hand found mine under the table. I leaned into his shoulder. Big Mama's voice drifted over from her debate with Aunt Sunja. Money shows you who people are, that's true. But mercy? That shows who you are. I smiled. She was right. She was always right. I'd spent so long hiding who I was, afraid of being used, afraid of being seen for the wrong reasons, afraid of losing myself in someone else's expectations. But in the end, it wasn't my money that defined me. It wasn't my company or my name or my power. It was the choice to show mercy when I could have chosen revenge, the choice to love when I could have chosen safety, the choice to trust when I could have chosen walls. Seo Jin squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. This was the life I'd chosen, the real one, the one that mattered, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.